Good morning and welcome to Day 74 of Geriatric 1944's Coronavirus Diaries. Actually, it should really be tomorrow, Day 75. He's 75, scream the headlines. All about yet another pensioner seriously injured in Buffalo in New York because he protested about police behaviour. Can I just mention that again? And the George Floyd viewers will be aware of what I'm saying here. This is not racism, this is police behaviour. And it sort of actually shocked me into thinking, you know what, I'm still fighting against Surrey police and the deaths of 3 innocent men during their last awful Operation Ravine debacle, as H.J. Taylor described it in court, where I was acquitted on all charges and the trial was dropped because of the disgraceful police behaviour. My complaint is still with the IOPC, the Independent Office of Police Conduct. They really should be checking out what went on with Surrey Police when the 3 men were killed, deaths in custody, according to the CPS guidelines. Likewise, the current Chief Constable of Surrey, Gavin Stevens, who's been there for years and years as a junior officer working up the ranks and was there throughout all the other Surrey Police debacle. The death of Breck Begnar, the 14-year-old who had his throat cut. The death of Millie Dowler and Amélie de Lagrange and Marsha MacDonald. The deaths of all those kids at Deep Cut Barracks who all got shot in almost exactly the same place, in almost exactly the same way. And the coroner, when looking at all their deaths, seriously criticised Surrey police behaviour. But none of these deaths have actually got anywhere. We are chasing to make sure that police behaviour is corrected in Great Britain as well as around the whole of the rest of the world. That's what happened with George Floyd. A police officer knelt on his neck for 9 minutes and killed him. In my case, police officers stressed out 3 innocent men for 9 weeks in one case, 9 months in another case, and actually caused their deaths by stress as surely as kneeling on their necks and stopping them breathing. Anyway, back to music. I've had various calls about John Peel. Dear Peely, I loved him dearly. He was a lovely man. And I remember one time, I think it was the Reading Festival, and on the top of the bill was Courtney Love. Courtney Love had a group called Hole at the time. Her husband, Kurt Cobain, had died only a few days earlier, but she insisted on coming and giving her performance on the stage. Well, I watched it. It was one of the most awful things I'd ever seen in my life. She was clearly completely blitzed out of her mind, could hardly stand up, kept forgetting her words, singing out of tune. It was awful. So I went backstage, because I was in the little area in the front of the stage. There was John sitting on the ground, and I sat on the ground next to him and said, Peely, that was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. And he said, no, I think it was the best thing I've ever seen in my life, because it basically showed adversity and triumph over adversity. And she was so brave to go on and do that. And even though she sang out of tune and it was musically a disaster, I thought it was brilliant. Well, that summed up to me the difference between Peely and I. I only really care about the music and the quality of the music. That's why I hate charity singles, for example. They're normally awful, and they achieve incredible places on the chart due to being bought for charity, but not because of musical quality. But Peely, on the other hand, was very well aware that something could be an event, and that's what Courtney Love on stage at Reading had been. Anyway, we were sitting there, and there was a very steep ladder going up to the back of the stage. Courtney Love finished her set, came out all on her own backstage, and sat on the top step with her head in her arms, obviously still very affected by not only whatever she'd been imbibing, but by the death of her poor husband, Kurt Cobain, with her legs akimbo, and it became very, very clear that she was not wearing any underwear. And I turned to John and said, John, I think we've both now seen Courtney's hole." And John did roar with laughter. It's an event I remember very well. Peely was marvellous. He played many of my records that he knew were by me and was a big supporter. He was the very first person to play this, which he thought was brilliant, right at the beginning of the 70s, during the era of skinheads and reggae and everything else. I made this record and put it out by the Piglets. And I wrote it and produced it, and it was sort of a send-up of fans of reggae, but in an affectionate way, because it mentioned everything that reggae fans liked and that skinheads wore and all the rest of it. John absolutely adored it, played it, I think, almost every night on his show. It then went on to explode, and I think worldwide it did something like 5 or 6 million copies. More than that if you include all the compilation albums it was on, probably about 10 million copies. Anyway, for you, see you tomorrow, and I leave you with the sound of the Piglets and Johnny Reggae.
What's he like, Mavis? He's a real tasty geezer. He's grown his hair a bit, but it's smooth, not too long. And he wears a baseball shirt with a number 17 on. He looks great in his big white basketball boots. He's stupid over football and he looks me in the eye when he shoots. Reggae, 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 here comes Johnny Reggae. Johnny Reggae, reggae, lay it on me. Reggae, 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 here comes Johnny Reggae. Johnny Reggae, reggae, lay it on me. He'll always start a fight for me. He's always on the phone. At the dance hall in the evening, he'll always take me home. In his fringe and buckle stompers and his two-tone tonic strides. He's a real tasty geezer, and I'm his here inside. Reggae, 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 here comes Johnny Reggae. Johnny Reggae, reggae, lay it on me.